All right, Pat, can you hear me? Are we ready to start? I can't tell if we have a quorum.
I'm scrolling down the list. Just one quick second here. We only have 9 members present, Chair, but we can begin, yes.
Okay. I guess let's begin then. Do you want to call roll as we start
Sure.
our Transit Management Committee meeting?
Okay. Marshall Pimentel, City of Avondale.
Present.
James Shano, City of Buckeye. Ryan Peters, City of Chandler.
I'm here.
Autumn Grooms, City of El Mirage. Dave Trimble, Town of Fountain Hills.
Here.
Rob Bohr, Town of Gilbert. Kevin Phelps, City of Glendale.
Here.
Julie Cairns, City of Goodyear.
Here.
Cameron Doling, Maricopa County.
Present.
Chris Brady, City of Mesa.
Here.
Eric Strunk, City of Peoria.
Here.
Mario Paniagua, City of Phoenix.
Pat, this is Jesus. He should be on shortly.
Okay, thank you. Town of Queen Creek, Bruce Gardner or Troy White.
Gardner's here. Thank you.
Mark Melaninchenko, City of Scottsdale. Mike Jett, City of Surprise.
Present.
Stephen Methvin, City of Tempe.
I'm here, Pat. Just made it.
Oh, thank you. Chair, we are ready to begin when you are.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Welcome
Mhm.
everyone to our February 2nd, 2022 meeting. We want to welcome everyone, and I guess at this point, are there any public comments, Pat, that we need to acknowledge at this time?
Yes, Chair. I believe that there is a Haley McDaniel on the call. Haley, are you there?
Haley? Haley, if you're there, go ahead.
Chair, she did send in her public comment this morning. She is very concerned about the littering at bus stops, and that is I want to say a misdemeanor. And she wants, Ms. McDaniel, are you there? So her public comment is concerning the trash and littering around Valley Metro or Valley bus stops, and would like Valley Metro leadership and city leadership to take a serious look at making those bus stops clean and usable. And I will put her full public comment in the minutes for today's meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate that observation and comment. I think that's worthwhile for us to continue to look at. I think it's probably an ongoing operational challenge, but it's fair to note that. So thank you. All right.
Mhm.
So,
And we have Mr. Blue Crowley in the room
oh,
this morning.
thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Crowley.
He's making his way to the podium.
Good morning. I'm hoping all of you got a copy of the Arizona Republic yesterday, and it's Valley and State, how Valley Metro is keeping light rail extension on track. And of course, they quote Hillary, but it's from 2 years ago. So what I find fascinating about it is I keep on trying to get you guys to acknowledge what we put together and what staff said were going to be the upgrades within the system. And this year it would have been 83rd and 75th Avenues from Desert Sky Mall to Arrowhead. And I find it fascinating that we are going to be trying to get the light rail all the way to Arrowhead, but why have a bus there? Just like with the extension the rail wants to do to Sloan Park, I've been asking, where is the bus that should be there? But when I look at this and it says 1.35 billion, and I look at the pie chart that said, this is how we're dividing the money. It's going to be 60% for transit and 40% for the rail. Well, with some quick math, at 1.35 billion, that would be 2 billion for the bus. And I'd like to see the bus system have industry standard when it comes to bus stops, which would be one every quarter mile and covered and such. Because with $2 billion, you know, the service should be expanding and doing all the rest of it. So I asked how long, you know, would that 2 billion be? And she said that that would be over 10 years, but, or the 1.3. But like I said, where is comparable of what you're doing with the bus system, as in getting it into all of your communities, having circulators and connectors? I'd also like, because it's the whole group at the moment, to give a compliment. My fiance, as y'all know, passed away 15 months ago, but we got a letter from Valley Metro, and it was letting her know that her eligibility for use of the paratransit system was going to run out in March. And I appreciate that. I know that in the board, you have how much really to do with that, other than you do set policy, but I appreciate that the system does that still reach out to make sure that those in the paratransit system are covered and taken care of. And I will be contacting them and letting them know that she has passed, but it's one of the things that you do, and I appreciate that you did it right.
Thank you. Pat, do you have any other public comments?
No, sir, that's it.
Okay, so that moves us to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is presented for action. Is there any questions or comments from board members? If not, we'll entertain a motion for approval in a second.
Chair, we skipped over the CEO comment. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I did. Oh, I apologize. We almost want to hear from our CEO, so let's hear from our CEO right now.
Well, I was hoping I'd get a pass. So were most of the other people on the call, but
Sorry, I skipped over it.
thanks, Pat. Mr. Chair, thank you so very much. We appreciate the, somehow we're now looking for the, there you go. Okay, I'll make it quick. We just like to, I'd like to commend our staff who work so diligently to not only talk the talk, but walk the walk in advancing transportation alternatives. And we were recently recognized by the Best Workplaces for Commuters, which is a national authority, for our exceptional commuter benefits to employees. So we Valley Metro was recognized as a best workplace for commuters, and that's due to the efforts of a lot of our staff who work not only internally, but with your cities and with companies and organizations in your cities to create transportation alternatives so that commuters have a wide variety of choices, including, we hope, public transportation. Next. I'd like to also give our staff some kudos for being very creative in meeting a challenge that we had. I think, as we all know, this pandemic has created unique challenges with our staffing. But we have a unique challenge within the challenge, in that The buses that we operate generally require the operator to have a commercial driver license or a CDL. And on our rural route, which is 685, which runs from Ajo into West Phoenix, has really been struggling to maintain throughout the pandemic a roster of operators because the buses that we were operating or have been operating require a CDL. That operator shortage due to the pandemic has caused us to actually have to suspend service of a portion of that line, especially here in the West Valley. Recognizing that we still needed service for some of the people who live out there, and that we had a few van pools sitting around because our van pool use has been limited. Our staff got together and we actually worked to create ADA compliant van pools that we could then put into service in the times when we had a gap. The reason for this: operating a van pool does not require an operator to have a commercial driver's license. So we found that we've been able to hopefully plug the gap and continue to provide service, uninterrupted service, by being what I think was a creative solution to a problem. Special thanks to our bus operations and van pool teams for working together to come up with a solution to a problem that was impacting our serviceability. The next thing is we're going to be in Mesa this Friday, Chris, in your area. If you haven't been to Mesa around the Sycamore Station, which is actually at the corner of Dobson Road in Maine, and from Dobson, Main Street headed south almost to Southern, the Asian district in Mesa is quite an exciting deal. Over the last 8 to 10 years, this has developed into probably the highest concentration of Asian themed businesses, restaurants, grocery stores, outlets in the entire valley. Recognizing that, the city of Mesa approached us to actually identify our Sycamore Main Street station with the newly designated Asian district, because so many people, if you go in there on the weekends, it's just amazing how crowded that whole area is. And of course, our Sycamore station is right in the middle of the Asian district. So this Friday, in conjunction with the Asian Festival and the Lunar New Year, I'm going to be out there with our board chairs, Mesa Councilmember Francisco Heredia, to christen the Asian district station, which is the Sycamore station that is in many ways not rebranded, but additionally branded. The event goes from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The official sign unveiling begins at 11. I would invite you to come over. If not for the sign, come over and visit all the different, there's every type of food and grocery and wonderful Asian theme that you can imagine that area. So come on out. The last thing I want to talk about are the board meetings that are coming up. Tomorrow we have our Audit and Finance Subcommittee. February 17th is a Board of Directors study session, which is currently planned to discuss our budget. This is 1 month earlier than we normally do. Some board members requested that we come before them earlier in the process. There's now some discussion as to whether they still want to do that, but right now we have a study session planned to discuss our fiscal year 22-23 budget on February 17th, and then a board meeting on the 17th. Our next TMC RMC meeting is on March 2nd, at 11 a.m. And Mr. Chair, that is please note also that our board meeting for 17 staff and everybody is moved back. The board will be, ad hoc committee will be conducting interviews for the CEO position. And with the study session, we have changed times for both the study session and the board meeting on that date. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay. Now we can move to the consent agenda. Is that correct? Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda? Now we'll entertain a motion and a second for approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Julian Goodyear.
Thank you, Julie. So a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Who is that? Was that
Kevin and Glendale.
Kevin? Okay, I thought so. Thanks, Kevin. Do we have a motion and a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair-
Any opposed?
Chair,
Oh,
I
yeah,
can
we can
take
do
a-
the roll call. I'm sorry. I'm
Yes.
still in my old ways. Sorry.
That's
We
okay,
don't know
not a
everybody's
problem.
name yet, so we got to go around the room one more time. Okay.
Yep.
Go for it. Go for it.
City of Avondale,
Aye.
Town of Buckeye,
Aye.
City of Chandler,
Aye.
City of El Mirage,
Aye.
Town of Fountain Hills,
Aye.
Town of Gilbert,
Aye.
City of Glendale,
Aye.
City of Goodyear,
Aye.
Maricopa County,
Aye.
City of Mesa,
Aye.
City of Peoria,
Aye.
City of Phoenix,
Aye.
Town of Queen Creek,
Aye.
City of Scottsdale,
Aye.
City of Surprise,
Yes.
City of Tempe,
Aye.
and City of Tolleson is not present today. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you, Pat. Very good. Let's move to item number 4. Mr. Smith, are you introducing this item?
I am, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Actually, I'm introducing Winnie Platinitis, who is our Transit Asset Management Senior Management Analyst. And just as a quick update, I think most of you are aware of the TAM program. It is a requirement of federal law especially in the FAST Act that we create I would say a very active and aggressive program to manage all of our assets. This is outside of our normal fleet management and those other things. It covers all the assets we have. And as you can well imagine, that we've built a system both on the bus side and on the rail side that has significant investments in assets. And now we need to take care of those. So I'm going to turn over to Wendy Platinitis, who will introduce Herb Higginbotham, who is a consultant who has been working with us to come up with some details and information related to this TAM. So Wendy, I'll turn it to you.
Thanks, Scott. As Scott mentioned, Valley Metro Transit TAM team, along with our consultant, has been putting together a 20-year needs assessment, looking at what costs might be and replacement values. I'm going to introduce Herb Higginbotham with Cambridge Systematics to go ahead and share the presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Wendy, and thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Pat, if you can advance our slides, thanks very much. So as Wendy mentioned, we're going to present for you the analysis and conclusions and recommendations from a 20-year assessment of asset cost and funding. If you can flip in, Pat, thanks. So the purpose today, we'd really love to be able to familiarize you with 3 things. Number 1, help you to understand how system asset requirements and long-term costs will be changing over time for Valley Metro. Understand really through this period, this 20-year period, how Valley Metro transitions from a newer system, particularly on the rail side, to a mature system. There are a lot of implications that come with your assets as they age, particularly all of the assets on the rail side, all the infrastructure, et cetera, that are required. And then finally, we want to be able to highlight for you the role that local funding plays in supporting that system long-term. Advance, please. Thanks. So really quickly, any good analysis has a process. So here are our boxes and arrows to quickly sort of show you what we did. I'll focus you on the green boxes first, asset capital funding and asset maintenance funding. As you're all aware, in the transit world, those 2 funding pots from federal grants on down are fairly separated. And so when we start our analysis, we take a look on the capital side at the funding that will be available. We compare that to then the costs that are needed year over year. That comes from both your expansion program as well as the replacement cost as your current assets age and need to be replaced. On the maintenance side, we do the same thing. We compare maintenance funding to maintenance costs. And maintenance costs we derive from your historical maintenance records, as well as the contract values for where you contract out certain maintenance functions. And so then what we do is we take all of that and we put it together. On the capital side, we look year by year at any surplus or deficit of funding over the 20-year period. We do the same thing on the maintenance side. And then right there in the middle there where you see the arrows moving back and forth is where the analysis really kicks in. And what we do is year over year, we look to see, do we have the money to buy the things that are due for replacement, or we said are new things that we need this year? If so, we go ahead and do it. If not, we have to defer when we buy those things. If we defer a replacement, What that means is that our maintenance cost increase for that into the next year as our asset ages beyond the useful life that we would typically intend to have it. And so therefore, then we show that on the maintenance side, and then we keep doing this process. It's very iterative, year over year, until we result in a 20-year analysis of what capital spend and maintenance spend is. But then even more critically for you all to understand is what does that mean for the performance of assets and the FTE resources that are needed in order to bring all that to bear. Next slide, please. I'm going to go quickly through some of the assumptions that we use as we run through this process. In general, we are assuming that the bus fleet remains relatively stable. So beyond any short-term purchases, we're not really assuming any expansion on the bus side. We're assuming the full implementation of the rail expansion plan that you all have been working against. We are assuming that the Prop 400 Public Transportation Fund is renewed, the ballot, and that'll continue to be a source for you all. And we assume that a funding reserve carries from year to year to fund gaps in state of good repair. Finally, we assume some cost inflation rates, and then you'll see a variety of growth rates in each of the funds that is assumed. On the right-hand side, you'll see all of the ways that we are taking existing data and filling in with useful life benchmarks for how long a rail car ages, how long a bridge or a piece of track or a signal ages, in order to understand our capital maintenance costs. We use historical FTE counts from you all to understand your FTE counts. And we use FTA prescribed performance metrics to understand what the level of performance is for each of the asset classes. This was all done in very close coordination with Valley Metro staff in order to really build this off of how you've historically done things and how you're planning to do things in the future. Next slide, please. So let's walk through, we're going to walk through two stories. We'll start with Valley Metro rail side. And what I want to show you, there's a lot of information in these graphs, so I'm going to walk through it very carefully. What I want to show you first of all, in the top graph, that capital graph here, you'll see a series of ebbs and flows in bars and an area behind it. That light gray area behind it represents the funding that is projected to be available on the capital side for VMR year over year. And those gray bars are the expected need. The gray, in fact, is the expansion program. You'll see in the first 2/3 of the plan, most of that is new rail vehicles that are being purchased as part of that program. And then what you will see starting in the out years, you'll see where there are some blue and green pieces that are hitting in some of the out years, as well as the bars now cresting above those funding levels. That's when some of the original rail infrastructure and vehicles are due for replacement. And it will be time to add those into the capital purchase mix as well. On the maintenance side, I'll direct you right below it, that graph below. You'll see maintenance costs steadily rise. This is a function both of inflation, but also a function of gaining more rail assets over time. As you expand the system, of course, you have to continue to maintain them. And you'll see that, for the most part, most years are closely met with funding, but in many of the years, funding just peaks out maybe 5% or so, the cost that to spend on everything, a little bit more than the funding that you have showing right now. So what does all this mean? I'll direct your eyes to the top right box where it talks about performance. You'll see in the first half of the year, focus on that dark line graph, that your performance would remain up at around 100%. Number one, I have to say, and this is a commendation to the system you all have built and that staff maintain, is that we rarely go into a system, particularly a rail system, and see 100% of the assets in a state of good repair. This is, again, a function of the program that you've run. It's also a function of the age of the program. And what you'll see in the second half of this 20-year analysis is that performance starts to degrade overall as funding is unable to keep up with the cost of maintaining assets as they age and as now you have to replace some of the original cache of assets that you have. It doesn't get into any sort of what I would call a critical state. You'll see still you're still up at above 80% on most metrics. But it is something that, again, that we watch when we look at systems, particularly rail systems, get into that midlife period. Many of your older systems now are moving into a performance level that is in a 40 to 60% range. So again, you're tracking in the direction of most providers, but at the same point, it's something for you to keep aware of how that performance changes over time. Finally, on the FTE graph, I'm sorry, Pat, do you mind going back? On the FTE graph, I wanted to show you how FTE counts increase over time. That little hatched area in the second half of the plan also represents additional FTE, beyond just the asset counts that would be required in order to deal with, again, an aging system. Aging assets have more needs, typically require more FTE in order to support them. Next slide, please. On the RPTA side, little bit of a different story. Capital needs for bus systems tend to be a little more variable year over year, just because buses replace sooner. You have more buses, they replace faster than a lot of the rail assets. And so you'll see a lot of variation up and down in terms of the cost. Funding is sufficient, and yet at the same time, you'll see that it's a little more straight-lined, because what you'll have to do on the funding side is program about every 4 or 5 years. Your team is programming out what the next series of grants you'll apply to for new fleet upgrades, et cetera, on the bus side, such that then that funding profile will then be scaled to match exactly when you need things in the long term. On the maintenance side, we have a little less visibility, since a lot of the maintenance is all contracted out. We know that maintenance cost will increase. Those are those bars. But funding at this point looks like it will remain stable and able to cover your maintenance costs. Again, what we don't know, of course, is every time you renegotiate a new maintenance contract, those might bump to a higher level. Right now, we're straightlining that growth. But again, the market will bear what those maintenance contracts and how exactly they grow over time. All in all, though, based on the information we have, we can say that performance and FTE counts should remain steady and at a very high level over the 20-year course of the program. Next slide, please. So to wrap us up, so conclusions. As you saw and we talked about, asset performance is outstanding right now, despite some observed challenges that we've heard in some of the retaining and filling key positions, particularly on the rail side as that expands. Funding is in place right now to build out the rail system and maintain existing bus and rail, with a big if underlined there. Prop 400 is renewed, and those member city contributions, which are so important to the budget, remain stable. On the VMR side, some specific observations and conclusions that we discussed. Funding won't keep pace in the second half of the plan as maintenance needs increase and existing LRV and infrastructure come due for replacement, meaning that performance would start to degrade over time. Also on the rail side, we saw that future FTE needs are probably understated at the moment. As your assets age, there will be some things that you'll need to consider in order to potentially grow FTE fleet numbers. And then on the RPTA side, we saw that performance is stable and strong at current levels, but we do have low visibility to asset needs, and better funding alignment in the out years would need to be programmed as well. And so finally, my last slide for you all. So what did we recommend to Valley Metro and to you all in terms of what to think about next? We do recommend that you try to build as much flexibility as possible into the PTF, so that you're able to balance spending on capital and maintenance over time. As you saw, there is a delicate balance between when we replace and when we maintain, and having that ability to use those funds in both ways is very helpful for any operator. Having secure mechanisms in place to commit that local funding for asset needs and maintaining minimum service levels is something that's a really important consideration that you as local communities should consider doing. Asset needs, as you see, will continue to increase as the system expands. And so having those mechanisms so that the operator can move long-term towards meeting those levels is really critical. And finally, having flexible state of good repair reserve funding so that you can, in any given year where your replacement needs might exceed costs, as happens from time to time, that you are able to balance that with a flexible fund are all really important. Our final 3 recommendations all revolve around how you continue to integrate performance metrics and analysis like these into your budget process so that you can budget more thoughtfully, ways that you can look at more predictive analysis for asset maintenance so that you can target your cost. And many agencies are finding ways to reduce the cost of future assets by targeting investment in the right places. And then finally, on the FTE side, consider doing a further analysis of some of those FTE gaps that potentially could arise in the out years. Thank you. We covered a lot of information quickly. If there are time for questions, I'm here, but you let me know.
Very good. Anything else, Mr. Smith, from staff or others?
No, Mr. Chair, that's it.
That was
Other
very
than
comprehensive.
to just say that we do have a relatively young system, both on the bus and the rail side. As far as our capital needs, we both Valley Metro and the City of Phoenix have very well-defined fleet management, but we have other capital assets that are relatively young, and so as Herbert said, we've done a good job of keeping track of. But as we move on, especially through the Prop 400 extension, if it is approved, one of the critical needs on both the rail and the bus side will be in maintaining the capital assets, whether they be park and rides, transit centers, bus facilities, our bus yards, or on the rail side, of course, the whole maintenance of the way and the line and the track and the rail cars will become an increasingly essential item. And frankly, we don't have very complete plans that fully addresses our state of good repair needs. There are components of the Prop 400 extension that, thanks to all the leadership and MAG especially, have included substantial portions for state of good repair. There are some in the most recent infrastructure bills and in the extension of the FAST Act. There are potential for additional federal participation, but it's something we really need to look for in the upcoming years. And I appreciate the work that Wendy and her team has done, and consultants like Herb have done to help us at least prepare for that.
Very good. Are there any questions from members of the board? All right. There's no action required for this item, but thank you for the work staff, your consultants did. I think this is a very valuable assessment that I'm glad that was done. I think that really helps kind of look at the system today and tomorrow. So very, very comprehensive. Thank you. Very good. Okay, so next item is item 5, quarterly reports. You have a presentation on that, Mr. Smith?
No, Mr. Brady, these are normally presented in the packet.
You have them? We have those, yeah.
Yeah, if there are any questions that anyone on the committees has, we're more
Any questions on the quarter report that we received? Okay, very good. Let's move to item 6. Are there any questions regarding the travel expenditures and solicitations? Not, we'll go to item 7. There are reports of current events that anyone would like, or future items they'd like to place on the agenda. All right. Item 8, the next meeting of the TMC RMC is scheduled for Wednesday, March. What was the date on that again? March
2nd.
2nd. Sorry, it's missing on here. March 2nd.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. All right. I think that concludes the items for the TMC RMC committee meeting. Is that correct? Good. All right, let's move on to our next meeting. So, Pat, we need to call roll again, right?
No, sir, we don't. I have it listed.
Okay. Hold on, let me get. All right. So, are there any? We have public comments on this item?
Yes, Blue Crowley.
Mr. Mr. Crowley, please come forward.
Good afternoon again. With the Prop 400 coming to an end and such, part of the reason it was put together and why you guys are both in your last meeting, rail and bus, is to make it multimodal. And so that the connectivity and the use of the systems is maximized. I look at the extension going to Desert Sky and I go, 5 bus routes don't have any connectivity. And I go, what is the purpose of you two being, you know, with Mr. Smith, the head of both organizations, it not being multimodal? My favorite in there, as I've said before, is the 43rd Avenue, where that station is. As I said in other public comments, they found turtles the size of Volkswagens, prehistoric turtles. And I wanted those to be a part of the 43rd Avenue station. And then when I look at what the city of Phoenix is proposing, and I go, was this wrote by the rail people, or was this wrote by the multimodal people, or was it wrote by those considering the clientele air quality in the city of Phoenix? And I come up with, oh, it's just that rail mindset. So please, in that you guys are the ones that actually get work done here, would you put the pressure it needs to be on the city of Phoenix to get that job done? Also, with that document that you guys just showed us on the cost, et cetera, I always thought that maintenance was a part of the operating cost of the rail. So why it's a part of what you're spending, because the operating costs for the rail is by member cities. It has nothing to do with Valley Metro. So why is that maintenance in there? As I said, maintenance is a part of the operating. It's not a part of capital. So why is it in there? And with each of the cities that do have the rail, you need to step up and take care of this part and get that monies to my buses. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat, is there any other public comments?
No, sir.
Okay, let's move on to the next item. This would be the consent agenda.
Yes.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the consent items? If not, we'll entertain a motion in a second. We have a motion for approval.
This is Kevin, so moved.
Thank you, Kevin. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Eric from Peoria.
Thank you, Eric. We have a motion and a second. Pat?
Okay.
Roll call.
City of Avondale,
Aye.
City of Buckeye,
Aye.
City of Chandler,
Yes.
City of El Mirage,
Yes.
Town of Fountain Hills,
Aye.
Town of Gilbert,
Aye.
City of Glendale,
Aye.
City of Goodyear,
Aye.
Maricopa County,
Aye.
City of Mesa,
Aye.
City of Peoria,
Aye.
City of Phoenix,
Aye.
Town of Queen Creek,
Aye.
City of Scottsdale,
Aye.
City of Surprise,
Aye.
City of Tempe.
Aye.
Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you, Pat. Okay. We'll go, item 3, report on current events and future agenda items. Is that next? Right, I don't hear anything on that. The next item would be, our next meeting, is scheduled for Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 at 11 a.m. That concludes the, TMC meeting. Now we're ready for the RMC meeting. So all those who are involved in that, start that meeting now. Call that meeting to order, Pat.
Okay. City of Chandler, Ryan Peters. City of Mesa, Chris Brady.
Here.
Mario Paniagua, City of Phoenix.
Here.
And Stephen Methvin, City of Tempe.
Here.
Chair, we're good.
All right, good. All right, Pat, do you have any public comments?
Yes, sir, Blue Crowley.
Mr. Crowley?
A year and a month ago, I watched the attempted overthrow and coup of my country because I was lucky enough to be in front of a TV set while your meeting was going on, and unfortunately had to watch those occurrences. Well, in your code of conduct and such, it says can't be obscene, can't be there's a bit of overextension of the powers of the system, as in, these are free speech things, because after having seen that, when I see somebody wearing a MAGA hat, I find that to be obscene. I note on here that you just passed on the quarterly report the document on what we're doing with the rail. And what do we have here? Code of conduct violations, 512. And the code of conduct is you have soiled clothing violation. You have a radio on violation. And I've asked, would you please break down, because there's like 20 different things in code of conduct, what it is that you people are doing here. And I was told, well, most of them are past violations, either someone not having it or someone trying to get on is disabled, etc. Well, then show that, because it says you can't have obscene clothing. Well, I find that if a woman is showing cleavage, that's a positive thing. But if you are of some religions, that's more than damnation to look at or be around. So when you're telling people what to wear, how to behave, is that the job of security? As in, it says in there that you can't spit or urinate. Well, like I said, soiled baby diaper, somebody with incontinence. But the other is if I have to expectorate, as in spit, what am I supposed to do? Because you don't have any bathroom facilities there. You do have drinking fountains and, but where you put it that these are things that are unacceptable, you're not also giving the abilities to change them, as in if you do have a soiled baby diaper, where is it that you could take and do that? And you've also been shown that a nursing mother has no reason to be messed with on the rail or bus. So What is it that you're actually trying to do?
Okay, Pat, anyone else?
No, sir.
All right, we'll go to the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent. Are there any questions, concerns? Anybody want an item pulled? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Anyone?
Move approval. This is Mario.
Thank you, Mario. We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second, Ryan and Chandler.
Ryan, okay, we have a motion and a second. Pat, can you call roll, please?
Sure. City of Chandler? City of Mesa?
Yes.
City of Phoenix?
Yes.
City of Tempe?
Yes.
Motion passes, Chair.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, we have one more, we have a regular agenda item. The rail transportation services contract change order. Do we need any discussion, any questions on this item from anyone? If not, we'll entertain a motion for approval. Mario?
Move approval.
Thank you, Mario. Do we have a second?
Second, Ryan and Chandler.
Ryan. All right, Pat, can you call roll, please?
City of Chandler?
Yes.
City of Mesa?
Yes.
City of Phoenix?
Yes.
And City of Tempe?
Yes.
Motion passes, Chair.
Thank you, Pat. All right, item 4, report on current events. Any requests for future items? Not, the next meeting of the RMC is scheduled for Wednesday, March 2nd at, 2022 at 11 a.m. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your help. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You. Thanks,
Thanks,
Pat.
everybody.
Thank you.